then you have the wellness and services report. And attached to that, at least attached to mine, is the FSS grant outcomes and
Yes.
marketing plan, so we can just hold that and finish looking at the SASH.
All of the print materials, which really looks just great.
That was really nice what Commonwealth Daily did.
Yeah.
For Thanksgiving, that's
That's
fantastic.
great, and Shauna did a terrific job of getting that together. I don't,
Yeah, it was very last minute that we got
Wow.
notice, so
Yeah.
she really rallied the troops to get lots of people signed up. And I think next year it will be even more successful. Did she put the numbers in there of how many people?
90 meals were ordered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from just our housing sites, which is pretty
That's
huge.
good.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
And so, next year they are streamlining the program because there's such a need, so they are getting grant funding. This year they really relied on donations and putting pieces together. It was harder, they didn't expect so much need. So next year it will be a little more organized in the sense that they'll have stuff prepped ahead of time.
Because I didn't hear anything about this one, it was the
Yeah.
regular one downtown that you heard all the
Yes.
Yeah.
hype
This
about.
came out like 2 or 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, and Shauna just,
Oh, it was days before.
Yeah.
I think it came out like, shoot, we
Yeah.
got it out Thursday and we
Wow.
needed to get the information to them like by
Did they
Monday.
contact her or?
Yeah, they did,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
That's wonderful.
yeah, so now she's made a really good connection there,
Great.
and,
Mhm.
you know, and they'll know that we love to have those contributions.
And I really am so impressed with this.
I know, they did an amazing job, Shauna and Lorelai. I mean, you can probably see it with our website and our
Oh, yeah.
Facebook page and just all of the outreach materials that they create. They just do, they really have a talent for it.
I love reading all your reports because they're so full of information.
Jeez,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we run out of space. I mean, we have so much, I mean, we forget to put things in. Like, I don't know if we talked about, but just this past month, we connected with the fire department to come in to meet with us. And today, we just met with the chief of police at a RAB board meeting, which was a huge success. The RAB board had come up with a bunch of questions.
Good.
And worked on questions to give to the police chief ahead of time. And then he came and he answered all of them. It was really, what did you think, Lana?
Yeah, what'd you think, Linda?
Yeah.
I did like it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, lot of information.
Yeah, I just thought he was great, really just open
The
and,
idea of having the questions up front to him was awesome, because then he got a chance to.
you know, he had a little paragraph for every, yeah,
I saw that.
he came prepared with an answer for every one of our questions. He
That's
had
right.
information that he had looked at in advance. It was
So there
really,
wasn't winging anything.
no, he really,
Look it up.
he took care. He said, I didn't remember the curfew information. You sent me to the books.
He's done
Wonderful.
the homeless meetings they've had in town, and he has so much information, answers everybody's question, and if he can't, I'll get back to you, give me your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that he would continue this collaboration, that he wants to keep doing this. And he talked a lot about working with Groundworks and their work with that, which was really helpful for us to know. And he wants to continue that collaboration with the residents. So it was really nice. It was great to get off on the right foot.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And, you know, that's part of our goal, is to just continue to get as many collaborations as possible with partners in a way that's very deliberate.
And Lucy, I love numbers, and I really enjoyed reading
Oh,
this, all your percentages.
Well, I think now
Doing my
that
best with the numbers.
we've gone through the reports, why don't we have our discussions?
On family self.
Mary, are you on now?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay, good, because this is a question that Donna, our commissioner, has, and I think the rest of you have as a point of interest. And so we invited Lucy and Christine to come and share with us FSS, so we could understand what's going on. So I will turn it over to you two.
Okay, well, I know the numbers aren't as stellar as they should be, and I'm working really hard to make them better. Christine and Chris had suggested I come up with a marketing plan. To be quite honest, I know nothing about marketing, so I Googled something and came up with what I did, which I will work on following, which is basically, I think, doing more advertising, more collaboration with the property manager, and just really work on building up the numbers. I do want to say, in total, I've worked with 102 families since I started the program. Got 37 now, 19 of whom are working, 10 are on disability. Since January, 10 have increased their incomes. I know that's not a whole lot, but that's pretty good for, I think, for around here.
It's important to remember the program itself started in 2011, so that we've had some years of growing into it.
In all the years, we've had 13 graduates altogether. So it's about, a couple a year, which is, when you think it's a 5-year program, it takes a while to get through it.
What makes a graduate?
That it's a goal-oriented program, so at the beginning, when we start meeting, we come up with a set of goals, and one of which is employment, some form of employment. Other goals are credit repair, things like that. So in order to graduate, you need basically to reach your goals.
One of which has to be.
And one of which has to be employed. You have to be employed in order to graduate.
And not receiving any public assistance.
And not receiving public assistance. So the idea is to really get people out of public assistance, and ideally move them out, public housing into the fair market. And I've had a couple folks do that.
Great.
I was surprised how many 65 and older you have had, the 25 that you have here that have been there. That's surprising to me. It tells you what Social Security is like, actually.
Yeah, post-retirement.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have a small pool that just as people graduate from the program, those who aren't interested, the pool, those get smaller. But Courtney has got this nice thing going when somebody new moves in. We're doing a one-on-ones. Like after they've been there a month, she does kind of a meet and greet and see how things are going. I go to that with her, and that's working out really, we haven't been doing it that long, but this has turned out to be a really nice way to meet somebody, because I'm not just like somebody, it's like, okay, this is Lucy Tell, this is the program I run, and I can say, here's some information, I'll get back to you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And so we're just really getting that process going, which I think is going to be very successful in getting those new residents into the program. And so then the challenge becomes how to address who's in the program, and David Section 8 folks, because they're the hardest ones to reach. So Jeanette White and I've been talking about like doing a postcard kind of campaign and just sending things out. So that's all in the works.
And of course, as Section 8, they are spread
they're
throughout
all over the
town
place.
rather than being clustered, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the new residents. How long have they been on the waiting list before they come as residents? Asking the question because they bring expectations from being on the waiting list.
Well, the waiting list has 400 names on it.
Well, for the one-bedroom units. For the one-bedroom, so I would answer that, Janet, I would say probably 2 years.
Yeah.
The average wait time for a 2-bedroom in public housing is what, 2 to 3 years, I think, and 1-bedrooms are 1.5 years to 2 years. So on the average of a couple of years. So that's a tough wait, and then when you do get housed, it's
Finally, I'm in housing, I don't have to do anything more. I'm
Right.
just saying, yes, you do.
How much notice do they get, so like to move out of where they are, to get things packed? How long
I
do they
think the
have to
screening
move into?
process that Jen and Courtney go through is probably 1.5 months or 2.
Okay.
When they're initially notified of coming in for an interview and then screening them. And then when the unit becomes available, so again, that's an average as well. So I'd say 1.5 to 2 months.
Okay, that's good.
We've
Yeah.
had some real quick ones.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how much we have to verify. We have these 43 separate items that we might need to verify on any one person in our household. And if we're lucky and, you know, the bank sends the stuff back and everybody sends the, you know, which is rare, then it can go, you know, pretty quickly. But we, the process is long enough that residents, we don't come into many situations where a tenant is stuck because they haven't been able to give a 30-day notice. Because we, and David and I feel strongly about this, we don't want to be the reason a tenant breaks a lease and doesn't give the proper notice to their landlord, because we need that landlord.
Yeah.
And it's just not good, just not good. So there is an ability for that to happen within the screening. And we actually, if it really gets to it, we will hold the apartment until the 30 days. It's usually a couple of weeks, and we'll hold the apartment for the tenant, so that the landlord and the tenant have a good end.
And there have even been some landlords in the community that have been amenable to terminating the lease early, so that the family can move into public housing and vacate the unit without having to wait 30 days as well. So that's
Part
nice
of
in a small town.
The reason for my asking that is I'm wondering what it would be like to make an outreach to people who are in that stage before they actually move in.
And that's a good point, that, and I needed to work with Courtney on that, just what came back from this great PIC training, and that's one of the things they say, you know, get them an orientation. They talk about having orientation, or, you know, group orientations. I'm gonna see how that kind of pans out. I'm thinking one-on-one usually works better with these folks.
And we have such a small pool that it would be
Yes.
hard, yeah.
But I need to work with Courtney on trying to, when she's first started to meet with them, kind of pop in and say, oh, hi, when you get settled, I've got this program, we should talk. So I think that's a really good idea.
It sets expectations for them, which would be great.
Well, in our, if we get into MTW, that's one of the things that we want to do, is be able to extend family supportive, family self-sufficiency or family support program to people that are on our waiting list, regardless of whether they're gonna get in or not, but just to make them aware of service coordinators and services like FSS that are available. And that we might be able to help them through an MTW program, even if they're not in public housing or on the Section 8.
That would be great.
So that's what we were thinking of with which is another reason that we want to really, this is a very important moment for FSS, because it's one of the building blocks of our MTW.
And I have to say, when I ask folks, my participants, what, you know, what they appreciate about the program, what they like, besides me, they like the support. And it's just the support, because a lot of these folks have never had that. And so I'm somebody who says, you know, you should try this, come on, you can do this. You can try. And if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, well, let's talk about this, but, you know.
Does Voc Rehab work with you at all?
Oh, yes.
So that you have their resources?
If folks need a job, I send them to Voc Rehab.
Great.
Especially because a lot of the people I work with have not worked in a while. And if you haven't worked in a while, you know, it's really hard to get into the workforce. And so, you know, I send them to Voc Rehab. I refer.
Great.
And I have good relationships with the folks there, them and also Weber, so.
Great.
And we have begun, we've sort of started to strengthen our relationship with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, and we'll be attending a meeting this Friday
Right, yeah.
that they're having with folks like us that have programs, so they can really start looking at how they can better help this process and what our needs are and how we can connect.
And Cindy Luca, who does CWS, oh, drawing a blank, community work support, something like that. Basically, she's helping people get jobs too, so she and I have a good relationship, we work well together, and so she's a good collaborator.
Sounds like you're doing a good job.
Thank you, Mom.
Say something?
Sure.
Have you worked with the program ADA?
Americans with Disability Act.
Yeah.
I
I used to be on that program, that's what I'm saying, and it was really helpful.
have not worked with ADAs per se, I work with,
BCIL.
VCIL.
Yeah, well, I happened to come around the corner from CCIO, and I ran into a friend of mine, she worked there, and I got a job. It's a 2-year program,
Great.
and, but you get, they help you get into a job.
That's wonderful.
Resource.
That was the other thing I was gonna ask about, the education portion of it. Of people going to get trained or,
That's kind of comes and goes. When I first started, I had a lot of people going to school, which was really great because from my perspective, it's like, go to school, and FSS supports that. Don't have so many at the moment, and I will try to kind of beef that up somehow. My guess is that's just one of those things that sort of goes in waves.
There are some people that do like the training opportunities, like at the hospital.
The LNA,
and
yep.
LNA training, so maybe not like formal,
Yeah.
you know, community college,
Right.
but we'll go into the short-term training certificate programs.
well, that's what I was gonna mention, because from my experience this last year, there is a real dearth of LNAs. Everybody is fighting over every
Yeah,
LNA
no, I
that's out
try to
there.
encourage folks to do that, if
Yeah.
they want to. I mean,
Yeah, and they have good instructors, because I've met them,
mhm.
and they're very good.
It's a good career path.
It
You
is.
start there,
It
you
is.
kind of build up, and I'm working with
Right.
Drew McDowell at the Career Center. He's trying to come up with some other career paths, that you can start at this job, get to that job, get to that job, and then you've got a career. So working with him on that also. But yeah, the nursing is an important one.
And, and there's so many jobs available.
Yeah, and you can take them anywhere, that's why I tell
Yeah.
folks, it's like, this is such a good career, because not only can you make some money, and as a woman, you can kind of build,
Right.
work your way up. It's portable, you can go anywhere and take that with you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. One last thought, the Vermont Associates program that takes people 55 and over.
I've used them some.
Sorry, that was the program.
yeah,
That was the
That's okay,
program,
that's
right?
I forgot the name of it, that's
That's
fine,
okay.
I was on the program for
That
2 years.
makes sense, yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Again, I use them when I've got somebody in that age bracket that, that's the better place to send them.
Well, they've got 5 years
Mhm.
and lots of computer training,
Mhm.
a lot of useful things there. Housing Choice Voucher Program?
So, before we move off of FSS, it might be good to just let the board know where we are with respect to our grant.
So we've applied
Take that
for,
one.
we've applied for a new grant for the next year. We're waiting at this point to hear back, and we don't know, it begins January 1st, so we're not sure what's gonna happen at this point. We're definitely hopeful. Our numbers were okay last year, they weren't great, but we had such a limited number in our pool that it's really hard to compare ourselves to other big housing authorities. When Lucy and I went to a full 3-day training down in Providence, we met people from all over the country, from the West Coast, from Baltimore, big cities, and they kick people out of the program who don't participate, they're just like, get out, you can't do this, you're out, and we don't have the luxury to do that. Lucy really tries to work with everybody who's interested in the program, and even then, we're having a hard time with the numbers, so we're hopeful that we're going to get the grant for 1 year further, and then, our goal is to just run this program like we have 100 participants, make it an amazing program even if there's only 30-something. And that way, if we are approved for moving to work, we can really just maximize on that. We're sort of just like holding on the clause.
Is it HUD?
Yes.
It is. Yeah. And if you saw, I put it at the end of my notice, under Lucy, just the 3 areas of measurement. So if you look under FSS, the HUD performance measures for next year they'll be looking at 50% of that will be based on the earning performance measurement. So if earnings have increased, 30% they will grade it on the graduation rate, and the last 20% will be on participation rate. Yeah, the last, sorry, the orange,
There you go.
the orange one.
Yeah.
Right on the back under.
Very
quarter.
helpful.
Yeah. So, so those will be the measurements for next year.
Do we know, have an idea of how many people within the all housing are unemployed or could use this program and just,
So, you wanna speak to that?
yeah.
We've taken the best we can through the big pool and you kind of knock off, or not, eliminate elders and those with disability, and then you eliminate those who just won't work and kind of who's left. And there's,
So if you look at these numbers, there's a lot of information on here, of the grant outcomes,
show
so.
from section 8 that I really need to address, and there's like, it says 17 potential in section 8 and about 8 in public housing. So they're out there, not in huge numbers, but there's a pool out there to approach.
I think that Lucy's marketing plan will hopefully strengthen the program. The consequence of this is that it's a voluntary program. So as much as Lucy could sell them a pen, if they don't wanna buy the pen, they don't wanna,
Yeah.
to engage and actually do that. But I think also positive transfer and having conversations with other successful participants in the program is like wildfire. I really think that catches on because they've been where they have been before. So that transfer is
Right.
another good marketing.
And sometimes it's scary for people to look at something like that. It might be just too big. They might think it's too big, and if they talk to someone else.
A lot of folks in this, this pool, is the fear of success. Because if I'm successful, my rent's gonna go up. And I've had a lot of people say, well, Lucy, why should I get a job? My rent's gonna go up.
I'm gonna lose my food stamps.
And I'll lose my food stamps.
My
And what if I
childcare
use
subsidy's
my
gonna go
my
away.
rest of my benefits? So that benefit cliff and then the fear of success that goes along with it, and then, I'm successful and all this has happened, and then what if I lose my job?
Mm.
And they blow it all.
So you have a lot of people doing a sort of disaster what if.
And again, I mean, the big if, but the benefit cliff is one of the things that we really are starting to zero in on for MTW. Because that really is a huge impediment for a lot of people to get work, to do a lot of things. It's real, and it really, even if people haven't sat down and actually worked through the numbers, it's just sort of this thing that's out there, and it scares people terribly. And we think through a good MTW program that's aimed at the benefit cliff, we can actually change that. So, and that would really strengthen FSS and would help, I think, with a lot of things, and really be helpful to our residents who hit this.
I would urge you not to see 65 as a reason not to work. There are a great many people, me included, who are working in the
And we need to
communities.
work, and we need to work. Yeah, but just afraid to go out there and look for a job or something that they can do and re-entering the job market.
Well, it's hard to find people who want to employ people who are 65 and over. So that's where your program can perhaps be very helpful.
It's hard to find people who want to hire people that are 45 years old and older.
Yeah, that's true.
And the luxury of this is that in some ways, as much as it's a hindrance that we have such low numbers, it allows us the ability to be a little more creative with our program
Right.
and do more innovative things. It frees up a lot of Lucy's time to build these community collaborations, which we've been working so hard to build in all of the programs. And so I've seen her make really good progress in trying to get to that next step. And I think that this next year, hopefully that will be a big focus. And that is the it's not about marketing the program itself, it's about creating a program that's marketable. And so really making it so that people really want to be in it, even if they're not wanting to get employment right now. Let's see what that looks like. Lucy's worked with several people, or at least two that I know of, who've basically worked their way out of disability, off of disability, and to leave that, so I think that there's potential out there, definitely.
Any more comments,
No.
questions?
This was great.
Oh, thank you.
Good night. Watch the wire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Didn't want to
And I love your bulletin board.
That's all Sean and
Now-
Caroline, they're the queens of this, they're great at it.
Whose calendar is this? Is this the same for every site?
No, we all have different ones, so we all
Okay.
have different things,
Okay,
yeah. I
just
think that one might
curious.
be Lorelei's.
This is Lorelei.
Yeah.
Okay,
Coming Corner.
Yeah.
but does it include every site? That's what I mean.
No,
Is
it doesn't.
or is
We
it just
can't
for-
do, yeah, we
I didn't
we-
think you could,
We've
but I was
tried
just
to,
wondering.
and it just doesn't really work because of so much stuff, because we have so much going on in so many different places.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify.
Ready to move on to Lou? Housing Choice Voucher Administrator?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If
If
you
you have
have
any
any
other questions for,
You know where to find me.
all right. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Do we need to bring this back next month?
Yes.
Okay.
What can I share with you? My purpose of being here today is to just give you a brief overview of what's called coordinated entry for our homeless programs. But also wanted to share with you that I think there was one action on the agenda that you needed to take as well for the Section 8 program in regard
Oh,
to
yeah.
interim reexaminations at the third
If,
week, so I don't know if you want to go there now or.
Approve one additional change to the administrative policy. Yeah,
okay.
and that's the,
I think that is underneath.
yes, it's under the blue, and it says changes affecting income or expenses in red is deleted and green is added. And it's like this, yeah, there it is.
Now, how, one of the questions I have on here
Yes,
is people have to report within 5 days now.
5 business
But
days.
it doesn't mean they have to verify within 5, because if somebody
No,
starts working.
they report and then I would make a determination whether or not an action would be necessary.
Okay,
Some people have called and said, David, I've had an increase in my salary, 10 cents an hour, is that gonna make a difference in my rent? No, I'll make a note in your file that you have done your due diligence and reported it, but I don't need to take any action.
yeah,
They may call and say, David, my job went from 20 hours to 40 hours, and I got a raise. Okay, and here's the next step is then.
Okay.
So, in the process of reviewing requests of interim reexaminations for income changes, income increases, historically, we have given folks until the very last day of the month to do that. Some people wait until the last day of the month to do that after we've already run landlord checks. And we need to backtrack, and the man time it takes to clean things up after the fact can be prevented with this action before.
And this actually is the way, the policy that we have in place for public housing and have had for a long time, and it really helps. And I would say this is yet another one of those items that we found through the voucher management audit that we had, where David said, well, wait, can we do this? And I said, of course I think we can. So this would really be helpful, and we found pretty quickly tenants got it, that they had to report within the first 3 weeks, and if they didn't, they weren't getting it.
Right, they weren't going to get it immediately. So this does not preclude someone from not getting the change, it's just that the change is not, if it's after the end of the third week of the month, it will be effective the subsequent month thereafter as opposed to the beginning of the very next month.
And would be more important for a decrease rather than
Right.
an increase.
Correct.
Yes, yes, and that's where, you know, people wait until the 30th of a month that has 31 days, and they tell us, and then they want us to immediately lower their rent for the first. Well, everything's done, you
Yes.
know.
Right.
The checks are sitting at the bank, ready to drop it.
Right. So do I hear a motion to adopt this change to the administrative policy?
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No abstentions. So it is adopted.
Thank you.
Now, it's on the Section 8 voucher, I think it was Section, yeah, that it took someone a year to get his, find an apartment on one of these. Is that the average time it's taking people?
It wasn't probably Section 8.
Okay, it's one of these, I don't remember which. Here
Shelter,
it is, Shelter
it was a
Plus.
Shelter Plus Care individual. That is most uncommon.
Okay,
If there's any strength in the Shelter Plus Care program, it's that the average lease-up time is a month.
oh,
In the
good.
Section 8 program, it's anywhere between 3 and 6 months because of the support of the sponsor agency that is proactive in getting the recipient housed in a timely manner.
Isn't
Yet
the
we,
rent
but
allowable rent higher than on Section 8?
can be. We prefer it not. I work with landlords to let them know what our payment standards are in Shelter Plus Care, which are the same as in Section 8. But if they're adamant, and I am not going to have a homeless person lose an apartment over $25 a month, I have some flexibility with the payment standards as long as I have 3 comparables that will justify my increase in the payment standard. So I have needed to do that a few times, but again, going back to our marvelous landlords in the community, they're all pretty reasonable in staying in bounds of what the payment
just-
standards are.
Remembering an earlier time in the program.
Yes, yes, where we could not adjust those rates or subsidy payments. And I'd say in the last 3 or 4 years, HUD has had a change of heart a little, and that's okay.
Well, when the program first started, we could have much higher payments.
That's what I was remembering.
When it
For,
first started.
yeah, for
Yes.
Shelter Plus Care. And
Indeed.
what we found, Janet, was that we had Shelter Plus Care folks that could not move into regular Section 8 or public housing properties because the rent was so high and being subsidized. And
True.
so we also, in looking at that, found that we, in some cases, and it was about a handful, I think, but we had people where we were paying so much that we actually could have had 2 people subsidized for the extra amount that we were
Yes.
paying for that one person. And so, you know, over time, we really looked at, you know, let's pull this back and I can say that we did not lose any Shelter Plus Care participants in getting the rents to more accurately reflect the fair market.
What I'm hearing is that you gave them more flexibility to move from one program to another.
Yes, and that was the problem. I mean, we really had people that were stuck, and we had one person who was really pretty articulate about it and said, you know, I'm just stuck here and I want to move. And I can't move because, you know, you're paying too much.
And we recently had a family participant in Shelter Plus Care that accepted an offer for a unit at Ledgewood last month as well. So left in not needing the ancillary supports to be a tenant of ours up at Ledgewood. That was a great
That's
transition
wonderful.
as well.
Yeah, it's great.
And they're still paying the same share of rent that they did in the subsidized program, which is 30%.
That's great. Let's talk about coordinated entry.
Oh, if we must.
It looks.
Coordinated entry is a term that was defined by HUD, I would say about 3 or 4 years ago, that was part of the umbrella of what is called the continuum of care. As you all know, HUD has different subsidized housing programs specifically for the homeless. There's Shelter Plus Care, there's a rapid rehousing voucher, there are different, what is my list of available subsidies, just in our community alone?
Brothers Bash.
Well, that is through the Vets Administration. I do have my list of, don't go far. Right, okay. So with us, we have the Shelter Plus Care program. We have the state-funded Transitions to Housing program. There is, run by Vermont State Housing Authority, a family unification voucher program called the FUP. There is rapid rehousing that is overseen by SEVCA. There's a Vermont rental subsidy that's another subsidized 2-year program run through the Vermont Agency of Human Services. The Women's Freedom Center has some rooms and sheltered beds available. Youth Services has a transitional program for homeless youth. Now the Winston Prouty Center also oversees the Family Supported Housing program. So if I'm one homeless individual and I want to make application to get into some type of housing that would best meet my needs, I'm going to have to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different applications and places and requirements and case managers and what are their hours of operation, and I can't get to there from here. Well, what the coordinated entry system is, in short, it is the front door to any homeless program that is operated in our continuum. There is what's known as the lead agency. In our community, the lead agency is Groundwork Collaborative. So that is the point of entry for anyone who meets the HUD definition of being homeless or at risk of being homeless. At that point in which they make application, or should I say register, it's really not an application, when they register with Groundworks, then there is an assessment that takes place. Maybe the situation of homelessness is short term, maybe it's such that their car broke down, they can't get to work, I need help fixing my car so I can go back to work and afford rent. That's a permanent rental subsidy is not necessary in that case. So through the coordinated entry process, an assessment then is made and then determined what program best serves that particular situation, rather than have this family or individual be running around to 7 different agencies and finding out 6 out of 7 of those they're not going to qualify for anyway. Very frustrating. So again, coordinated entry is a consistent, streamlined process for accessing the resources available in the homeless crisis response system. Through coordinated entry, the continuum of care ensures that the highest need, the most vulnerable households in the community, are prioritized for services, and that housing and supportive services in the system are used as efficiently and effectively as possible. So to share with you those service providers who are on the continuum that oversee this coordinated entry process is a representative from the Women's Freedom Center, Vermont 211, the Winston Prouty Center, Groundworks, HCRS, the AIDS Project, SEVCA, Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, Youth Services, Pathways to Housing Vermont, the Agency of Human Services Field Director here at the state of Vermont is present, Economic Services staff from Agency of Human Services is present, the Veterans Administration is present around the table, the United Way is present around the table, and I'm an ex-chair of that group as well, and we're always present around that table. So in short, it's the front door again to accessing appropriate services and funding for available homeless programs. I could get into the weeds and talk to you about the old days compared to the new days, but there are really 3 levels in the coordinated entry process. That there is the lead agency, And then if I go back, then look at my notes here a second. The lead agency is Groundworks. Then there's an assessment partner. So I can't make it to Groundworks, but I want to make application and I want to be assessed. Then there's SEVCA, Youth Services, Winston Prouty, Pathways to Housing Vermont, Women's Freedom Center, and HCRS are also available to provide assessments to get folks in that front door. Then what's known as a referral partner, someone comes to a service provider and says, hey, I'm homeless, what can you do for me? Oh, really? Well, have you made application, have you registered yet with the coordinated entry process? No, what's that? Well, let me follow up and tell you about that. So Brattleboro Housing Partnerships is a referral partner. Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust is. Brattleboro Memorial Hospital is a referral partner, as is Early Ed Services and Economic Services here in Brattleboro. So there's really a strong continuum of service providers that's acutely aware of the process in getting folks registered on this coordinated entry list. Do I like it? It's growing on me.
David, let me just ask one question.
Yes.
Why is Pathways Vermont in the second group?
Why are they an assessment partner?
Because they're a housing entity.
They're a housing and supportive service agency, just as Winston Prouty as well, you know, does the FSH as well.
Okay.
So they are just an assessment partner. They,
Okay.
someone may actually even qualify for Pathways to Housing
Right.
services and
That's what I
such as
mean.
well.
I mean, they actually house people. They have their own program.
I understand.
So it sort of seems like, gee, they get a little leg up on the rest of us.
No, because it's
No.
all based on the assessment
Okay.
and the availability of what subsidy would best fit that need. And if Pathways has something available and that fits, that's determined by the list in the assessment scoring. What agency would best serve that particular
Oh, I see, okay.
person,
Okay.
so there's
Okay.
no feeling from the
Okay.
bottom of the deck.
Okay,
Can't happen.
okay.
The frustrating part for me, and speaking with my counterpart who operates the Shelter Plus Care program through Vermont State Housing Authority, is the length of time it takes to get someone housed. Had I been able to, an example I'll use is that we had a Shelter Plus Care subsidy available 2 months ago. I made contact with the coordinated entry lead agency that I have a subsidy available. Who's next on your list that would be appropriate? Oh, I'll get you a name in a couple of days, and they did. And then found out that that individual was supported by a particular service provider. Well, that particular individual did not make it to the service provider for 2 weeks to work with them to fill out my Shelter Plus Care application. Said, I'm not interested in this anymore unless, so then we had to go back to square one, go and get another person off the list, contact the service provider agency that I have a subsidy available for someone. So now you need to fill out my Shelter Plus Care application, and once I get that with all the stars in alignment of all of the verifications and all of the benefit letters and the licensed medical professional verification of disability, then you can come in and meet with me and let's get you up and running to go find a place to live. 2 months. The average time, 2 months.
But that's, what happens if it's a service provider who does not want to participate in Shelter Plus Care?
They can't. The referral out of the lead agency for a Shelter Plus Care subsidy is only to those agencies that we have MOUs with.
Okay.
So there's not gonna be a black
All right,
hole.
so that's where that gets taken care
Right,
of. That-
right, it's
they
gonna be
know-
streamlined right to
Yeah,
that
okay.
particular,
Because there's some service agencies that don't want to deal with Shelter Plus Care.
Well,
They told us that.
Yeah,
right, well, then we have a limited, list of those that have signed MOUs with us.
Right.
And that's the way it is in our community.
Yeah.
But no, there's not
Okay.
that gap.
Yeah, I just
For
hate
that to happen
somebody
and
to
somebody
get.
say, here, okay, well,
Yeah.
we don't wanna work with them anymore.
Right,
They
you
work
know,
with
they
them
go
at
to
all.
an agency.
That's not us.
And it's like,
No,
no, we already told them, we don't want.
it's already predefined
Okay, good.
as to who would be accepted for a
Good.
shelter plus care
Okay.
I
subsidy.
guess I was
Or,
going to somewhat
another-
ungraciously ask how well the agencies play with each other,
Hmm.
because that is one of the important things about this
Correct.
coordinated entry.
correct, and they seem to be okay. You know, I would go better from okay to good, I guess, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 and 8. And maybe it's because they all sit around the same table at the continuum of care group as well, and that now the newness of this is wearing off. We're coming up to the end of the first year, so I can't wait for the annual assessment, because I would like to have some input into this process as well. Not only is this specific to the federally funded homeless programs that I mentioned, but also our Transitions to Housing program provides 2 subsidies for the homeless family at large in our community. In the state of Vermont Agency of Human Services folks that oversee our grant is requesting that we use the coordinated entry system for those homeless families as well, knowing what provider agencies have signed on to provide supports to these families.
What if someone doesn't want to go, I call it the port of entry,
Yep.
to register? Is that the only place where they can register? I know you went through all that, just curious.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they can't come to me directly and
Right,
say,
okay.
hey, you've got an opening in shelter plus care, can I get an application?
But that was a good list. I mean, there's
Yeah.
plenty of places that people can go
Go.
to get their assessment.
But they can't get registered except in that one place.
Well, no,
Oh,
they
no,
can,
no, they can
Okay,
get
that's what I just
assessed
asked.
by that
Okay.
whole
right,
group.
any of those
Okay.
or other
Yeah.
organizations will
Okay,
do the
okay.
assessment.
They do the assessment, and that's the most
Right, but
important.
the overseer of all the data in the system is
Is
Groundworks.
Groundworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're the
But you do
keeper,
have-
they're the keeper of the keys.
The assessment partner and referral partner, so that
Right,
even though the Groundworks may be keeper of the keys,
Yes,
it's sort of keeper of the data,
yes,
rather than the excluder.
precisely.
Yeah.
yeah. So if somebody doesn't, let's say, I only want to work with the Women's Freedom Center, I can go there and have my assessment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I'm asking, there are a lot of people out there on the street that will not step foot on Groundworks. Porch.
I understand that as well, and
Yeah.
luckily there are other options
Yeah.
for them as
So I mean, if they
well.
had to go to the register, they would probably just go without, if that was the only.
If that was the
Yeah.
sole
Yeah, register, I'm talking about register.
port
Yeah.
of entry,
Yeah,
but luckily it is not.
Okay,
There's
good.
a
Okay.
wider.
I understand that.
And what do we do? So if
We're a
homeless-
referral partner.
Right, so I just think it'd be
someone-
helpful to explain, so if somebody
Sure.
comes to our door.
For example, someone calls the office or walks in and says to Jeannie, hey, I need a house, I'm looking for an application for public housing, I'm homeless. Ooh, red flag for Jeannie. You say you're homeless. Well, can David call you because he oversees a process of registering people for different homeless programs? And then I would make contact with that person and begin the referral process. If they don't want to do it with me, that's fine. I will defer to any of those other entities that they could choose from.
That's what I
As
needed
well.
to know.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's pretty good. I mean, most of the players at the continuum of care have a role in this. And I think that there's plenty of doors and pathways for people to get in. And then there's, a variety of programs that they can be
They may be eligible.
eligible for.
Right.
So, now, does the Housing Trust new property, the Great River Terrace, is that is that involved in this?
That is project-based
Okay.
vouchers
So that's not
operates
connected.
the Great River Terrace,
Mhm.
which is the permanent supported.
Yeah,
I think
Oh.
initially it probably did come from the coordinated entry list to identify
okay.
the homeless and
Okay.
disabled in our
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
And then that individual will have to make application screening with
Vermont
Windsor and Vermont State
yeah.
as well. And it was a process, but they finally had,
Mhm.
the property full.
Yeah, well, it's like red clover.
Yeah, it took a little while, but
Challenging.
up and running, a real community up there.
Yeah, good.
That's good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure, so handouts, as I say.
Yeah,
for you,
thank
and if
you.
you
And I'll
really wanna
pass
get
these
into the
along.
weeds, I do have a coordinated entry guidebook, so just let me know and I can, or maybe just give you the link.
So,
Maybe I'll do that, I'll just get Chris the link to share with all of you.
Oh, great.
right, give it to me and then I'll send these are the two handouts, the
Correct.
introduction and this.
The introduction and then the,
Policy brief.
right,
And
the
I'll
policy
put
brief.
the link on here and send these to
Good.
Tom and Donna, to make sure they get it.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Financial review.
Anything else? Do you need?
No,
from
not
us?
for me, I think
Okay.
you've taken action on my request for that interim change and for the increase, so time to check it out.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, have a good night.
Thank you.
Here today, this is 9:30.
I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. And we're at a point in the budget where we've got, we're getting close to the end of December.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of December wrap up is always nerve wracking because we have to have enough to cover snow. And that's what, has killed us in a couple of years.
I
So,
remember.
on this one, overall, the budget is in very good shape. The one area on personnel,
It was better in personnel.
yeah.
The
Oh, the
contract
direct
agreements-
expense was worse than budgeted, and that's because we hired Jeanette and we had not put her in the budget. We put her in the budget for next year, but we'll see, where we end up with all that.
And the admin costs that were higher than expected on the overhead. It's at the bottom.
Yes, no, that would be general administrative costs, I'm just not coming up with
Okay.
what's in there. May have been, we had to get new copiers this year, but we leased them, so I can ask Richard just to.
Okay.
But that's actually that means that we're better, so we're below, we're 8,000 below what we thought we were gonna be in direct administrative costs, so that's good.
Great.
The one thing I wasn't surprised about was water and sewer.
Yeah, we've had, the town increased the rates, but that doesn't account for why it's so high. We had a very bad leak again at Melrose, but the town was great about it. They went back and looked at when it started, changed some of the billing. They were very helpful in finding it. It was very, very hard to find. It was one of those where we had to get the camera that goes, like a colonoscopy through the system.
Water system.
And they were great. The town was just great. So we don't think that water and sewer was really bad. We just think there was a lot of usage and
Mm-hmm.
we got to figure it out.
So what is the contract, was that from snow removal? That couldn't be from snow removal, could it?
It's, no, it's
No,
not.
yeah.
It's turnovers. Because we had a lot of very old turnovers and I really got after Jack to get them done.
Mhm.
And he said, can I use contractor people? And I said, they've just got to get done because that's one of the things that will affect our fast work. I said, get them done. And we had 3 or 4 that were really huge. I mean, where we really had to replace everything.
Wow.
So,
These were natural departures, or were these evictions?
probably, well, we usually have more damage with people that are leaving unhappily.
That's why I asked.
Leave it at that, you know. And also, we've now changed a really old practice that was not helpful, and that was that, you know, a little hole here, a little damage there, you know, we just sort of let it slide till the family moved out. It was usually in family housing. And then we'd have, you know, a little hole here, a little hole there would add up to a lot of holes.
Yeah.
And, you know, a shaky cabinet, you know, one door would be, well, you know, and the other, well, and then, you know, everybody gets used to it, and then the family moves out, and you walk in and you go, wow, this is gonna, we have to get them all in the cabinets. So we've changed that, and Jack has really put his foot down and said, when you go in, whatever you see, maintenance has to correct it now. And that's, Courtney alluded to that they had done 132 inspections.
Yes.
And had 35 work orders, which is terrific. I mean, it's a very low number. But in the past, those work orders would have been less, maybe half of that. And would have been only really serious things. But now, if it's a loose cabinet, they go back and fix it. If it's, you know, the tenant says, you know, I've had this leak and it's nothing. You know, well, now we go and make sure that leak is fixed. So those are, and to do all of that, to sort of get caught up on all that, we had to bring in a lot of contractors, a lot of painters.
Okay. The monthly check listings, any comments, questions?
I thought I was signed up for January, but I guess not.
I did on the basis that it wasn't
Yeah,
convenient to do it in December.
yeah.
If you would prefer to do January.
I'll do February.
Yeah.
I think I could do, I just don't know about the surgery on my leg, when that's gonna fall, so. But I'll do February.
Okay.
Down for March.
All right.
Thank you.
Since Pat's been doing it all these times, probably for me. But again, I'll have to have somebody come and bring them,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. The budget preparation process.
Yes, that's 2020, sorry. We have begun the process on the management team, and we'll be looking at salary, budget, public housing, really focusing in on public housing and personnel salaries. And sort of going back and forth on that, and I hope to be able to bring a recommendation on personnel to the January meeting. And we're just using a process where every week we have a manager's meeting, and it's just for the budget. So I think we're gonna have a good process this year.
I like that the Millrose campus, if you could, they can put it into the village center.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh, terrific. And I don't have it here, but it opened up a page, a whole page of uses. Really terrific.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was wonderful, really. That was the chair of the planning commission, Sue Fillion, so.
That's fantastic.
Excellent.
And on RAD, Jack had alluded to that. We went through, so RAD is going to this rental assistance demonstration. It's getting rid of HUD on our deed and moving it all to project-based section 8. We have a transaction manager that's assigned by HUD, and that is a consultant. in the private sector
Okay.
who does these. But for us, he's paid by HUD, which is very nice. So we have a great guy, and he ran through a lot of numbers with me one day. And we could get a 4% tax credit, which would be non-competitive, so we could be assured of getting it. And get about $70,000 per unit for a construction project. So the management group met, we had a long conversation about this. It boils down to this. We could do that, and that would postpone the whole closing and the move to RAD for easily 3 to 4 years. Okay, because we'd have to do all the work to have that work done, you know, which is a lot, as you know from doing Red Clover.
Right.
So that's an option, or we can still stay on the path that we're on, which is to go through the RAD process, get to the closing, no construction anticipated. We have, according to our transaction manager, we're very solid financial footing to do this, and have enough money under the RAD rents to do all of the replacement reserves that are, now we have the 20-year study done by the consultants. So we could do RAD now, and that would take probably this year, and we could get to a closing, get HUD off of the deed, and have full ownership and control of the property. And then look at doing some major projects. So we really thrashed about, and the reason to wait would be to make sure that we didn't do improvements that would either have to be undone or were improvements to a property that actually will probably fail the total development cost analysis, which is, should this property have huge influxes of rehabilitation in it to begin with. Now that has been changed by HUD, so
HUD would still rule that rather than our local planning commission.
we would use the HUD analysis for that because they're HUD buildings.
Okay.
But we would do it under, if we were in RAD, we would be able to look at that and say, okay, what does that tell us? What we've decided to do is to go ahead and pursue RAD now and just get it done. Just get it done. Get HUD off our backs, you know, just get the property into our ownership so we can control that future. And then we can look at two things. Really significant energy improvements in our properties. We really, really need to do that. And whether some of these properties really whether it's really worth it to invest the amount of money that they need to be brought up to current energy and insulation and green standards. And I don't know, I mean, they might all be great, but they'll need a big infusion of capital. But we'll be in a much better position to assess them and to make those decisions. And we won't have to go and say, mother may I, you know, I won't have to do demo dispo applications and sit and, you know, wait for 6 months while HUD figures them out. So
How will this affect Red Clover 2?
it doesn't at all.
Okay.
Red Clover 2 is a totally different project. It's, RAD is only for the public housing properties that we own. Red Clover 2 is a mixed finance. It's not even a public housing project. It's being done just as Red Clover was by two nonprofits that are getting together to and we have the total approval on the demolition of Melrose and the disposition of Melrose. Totally done finally. So
Great.
that can all go, and we're going to start looking at design drawings this week for Red Clover 2. So,
If they're not gonna do the bridge, would they have like laundry facilities and everything else in the building so that they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to, okay.
we were gonna have laundry facilities in there
Oh,
anyhow.
okay, okay.
A couple things, without a bridge, the real issue is how are we going to help those residents that are in that building really feel connected to the bigger Red Clover? And quite practically, how are we in the winter and in the rain going to get them
Right.
from the building down in the parking lot into Red Clover? Because there won't be any activity space in that building. So those are some things that I really challenged the architect from their standpoint. I want them to really work on that. And I was really encouraged by Christine, who said, it's community building and we just need to tackle that. We've tackled it before, we need to tackle it now. And we have to really have a plan for how we're gonna really help these people, help whoever is there, feel integrated and get them integrated into Red Clover. So I think it's doable. I think we'll, where there's a will, there's a way, and I think that would be possible.
Great.
So,
There will be fewer apartments,
yes.
18 rather than 22.
Well, we were down to 20, and now there'll be 18. So that means we have 5, 6, 7, we have 25 at Melrose, and we're going to 18. Frankly, we'll have plenty of time, given our experience with Red Clover, well, a lot of time, to help tenants that don't want to go to a new building, help them with the tenant relocation to a private apartment with a tenant relocation voucher, which we have already. So I think the 18 is very realistic. I think we'll have plenty of time we may let the current Melrose go with some very long vacancies, if people leave for whatever reason, and there's 6 to 9 months, and we know Red Clover 2 is coming online, don't lease it up, don't lease it up. So I think we can manage that.
Yeah, I think it's a
That's
good idea
fine.
to go on RAD first, get that taken care of.
Yeah,
Instead
good,
of having to wait 3 or 4 years.
good. And we did have the second Community Advisory Committee meeting for moving to work. I thought it was great. There was a smaller attendance, but still a very engaged group of people, very good ideas.
When will the minutes of that come out?
Yeah, I should be getting those soon, actually. Jeanette's doing them, and she was in today, so I think they'll be coming out this week. We are ready to make the MTW application.
Good.
We have the survey done, we have Janet kindly signed off on the last piece of paper, and it's my intention to have that done before the holidays, so we can just get it all in and know that it's done. So, and the FEMA, I had an email from the state planner that we're working with, who emailed all of us, including FEMA, and said, looks to me like you should give us the approval. So that was exciting to see, and
Yes.
we'll see. We've talked to Historic Preservation. I don't think that that's going to be any problem with FEMA and the state. We've certainly agreed. They want interpretive boards and some other things, and that's all fine. We're not going. We want to preserve Melrose and celebrate what a great place it was all these years for people to live, so, we'll do that.
Yeah, as part of a park though, for the town center, that would be fantastic.
Yes, isn't that cool?
And they might be able to use one of the buildings for like not a clubhouse, but more of a, to store things, the town could store things there.
Well, the West Bee Association
Okay,
could, they've been longing for a place
okay.
for their
Their meetings and
meetings
stuff,
and
yeah.
their materials and an office and all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
we will have 6 buildings, and And we will be able to, I hope, preserve that front building, which is so beautiful, and
Yeah.
really, to me, is the essence of Melrose. So, you know, the thought of tearing that down was always heartbreaking.
It's a gateway to the property.
But I think, you know, we'll definitely be able to keep that. And,
When will the demolition of the other buildings take place?
well, as soon as FEMA says
Okay.
go, we actually have all the demolition contractors lined up. So you know, I'm hoping that this winter at some point, we have 75% design drawings. I mean, we really have a lot done. So I'm hoping that we'll hear, you know, this winter and then be ready to start in the spring. Very exciting.
Is there any other business?
I have none.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.